I think you're royalty and you deserve nothing less than my loyalty. You hold me down, in return you get more of me. That's how it feel when you're someone's priority, babe. Now what you gonna do with that? I know you ain't used to that. I'll show you better, babe. I'll show you better. I know you're used to letdowns and heartbreaks.
Welcome once again. We are back live on innerlightradio.com, and I'm your hostess with the mostest on Grown Folks Business, the goddess Sierra herself, and my co-host, goddess Earlene. She might be on tonight or she might not because she's got some things going on, but I'm telling you tonight, this might be a difficult topic to talk about alone. So I hope you all are calling at 310-928-7733. Again, that's 310-928-7733. But tonight I'm going to tell you, we're talking about, once again, the sacred energy exchange, but how it is reduced to simply just SEX, sex. And I'm telling you, people are out here doing it with everything from animals to young babies. And while I was away this weekend, I received some disturbing things in my Facebook Messenger that really, really shocked and disturbed me because, first of all, I could not understand, or even attempt to understand why adults would send child pornography through any type of social media, any type of computer, laptop. I don't see how any person that called themselves a responsible citizen or a responsible adult, anyone with any faculties of common sense or even below common sense, would think that it was okay to send such perversion, filth, and sickness on social media as if it was normal. And I really wonder what we're coming to when we think that sharing involves the ideology that we should just inflict people on certain atrocities that take place in this world. I have been sent murders on Facebook Messenger. I have been sent sexual crimes. I have been sent animals having sex with, animals having sex with pets, which I would say humans having sex with animals. And even though I'm a sexual wellness coach, I want to share with you all that that isn't sexually well. And those aren't the things that I would like my listeners to send me. If that's what you think that I want to see, you are highly mistaken. And if that's what you sit up and look at, you definitely need to go on sierratorres.com and book my services because you need some assistance with your tree of life. And so as we go into a society that seems to be really getting into the act of perversion, more and more, the video that I was sent was, and I did not look at it, when there was a long dissertation that came with it with a bunch of explicitives and things like that about how this so-and-so needs to go to jail, blah, blah, blah. A whole letter of explanation from the person as to why they would want to send that to my messenger. And so I closely looked because I get nervous to press play now. And I saw that it was a small child, a young lady, a lot of beads in her hair, a little black girl who looked about 4 years old with a adult lingam in her mouth. And I was mortified, first of all, that a gentleman would consider even remotely sending this to a woman, more or less a man to a goddess. It was the most disrespectful, distasteful thing. And I quickly deleted it. I did not view it because it was a trigger for me to see such an atrocity to take place on a child. And the fact that it was being shared on social media, and it came with the whoever baby this is and all of this foolishness. And what was even sicker was that you could tell from the positioning that someone else was filming it. And I thought to myself, what type of sick people would sit back and see a 4-year-old child being made to do this. And I was also heartbroken that this was still going on in 2018. I know it was going on when I was a child because some of the same things happened within my childhood, and it was terrible. And I can promise you, pedophiles, if you're listening, that no child loves you back in that manner. No child appreciates it, and no child desires it. Your sickness, your addiction, your fetish, your demonic behavior, whatever label they want to put on it, no child desires that. Children come here in innocence. They come here with love in their hearts, in their mind, in their soul. They come here desiring to make a difference. And it's the adult people that start to really screw up the lives of children. And so when I shared with this gentleman that that was inappropriate, he said to me, well, someone sent it to me. And I thought, is that supposed to excuse your behavior? That isn't something that I desire. And he still made excuses for his behavior. I quickly knew that I was not dealing with a king or with a man, that I was dealing with a child. And I simply deleted and blocked him from being my Facebook friend because he didn't get it. You know, you can definitely make a mistake. But when I tell you that you've made a mistake and you attempt to justify it, you're no longer on my level, and I have no problem with ending any type of communication with you because I've understood and I've come to understand that my health is what's most important, spiritually, mentally, physically, and definitely sexually. And so I began to just look at things on the internet and starting to see the level of crimes and the level of sickness that's shared on social media, and even Facebook's take on these types of things. Like there was a murder on Facebook and I reported it, and I was written back that Facebook was a place where you could share. This was the murder of a Black woman. And Facebook wrote me back saying, if you don't want to see it, don't look at it. And I didn't look at it. It was sent to me. And so, as I said, I was very leery about things being sent to my inbox. And I thought it was strange that the murder of a Black woman could linger on Facebook for weeks without incident, as if it was nothing. But if you put up a post that said anything about white people or all these little phrases that, you know, people have craftily concocted to disguise race, that Facebook immediately takes it down. Or if you're a young woman in her bra and another woman doesn't like it, Facebook immediately takes it down. But a murder of a Black woman could be seen all over. That a 4-year-old child with a adult lingam in her mouth could be shared that many times on Facebook. And so I did not show it to anyone. I did not share it to anyone. I quickly deleted it because I did not want a child pornography charge on my record, and I couldn't stop the person who sent it to me. So I wasn't certain even what the law was on that, because they have changed the child pornography laws, because people don't seem to have an off switch. And so now even taking a picture of your own child with a bare bottom is considered child pornography. And so it is not protected under the First Amendment. It is illegal contraband in the federal laws under Section 2256 and Title 18. Child pornography is any visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct involving a minor, someone under 18 years of age, but it's also nudity. And so, when I was a little girl, they had pictures in the photo album of me laying on the carpet with my bare bottom, and parents thought that that was cute. But that's not something that you can do now. As we know from the case of the parents who had their 3 daughters in the tub at Walmart, they took their pictures in to be developed, and the person who was developing the pictures thought they were inappropriate and contacted the authorities. And although the parents said it was innocent childhood photos, they were charged, their kids were taken, it was a mess. They were eventually vindicated and given their children back. But we need to understand that the laws are getting stricter and stricter because the level of perversion is getting more advanced. As we saw the young man from Glee who committed suicide last week, the actor who played Puck on Glee, you know, he had over, I believe, 5,000 images of prepubescent children on his computer. And what I found sad was the young lady who used to date him, who's a celebrity, Naya Rivera, she said, and this is a woman who dated him, she said, I mean, I'm not surprised. And I thought that was a very sickening and shameful thing for a woman to say, basically saying, yeah, I laid with a man that I recognize has some issues, and you not stand up for victims or anything like that, and simply say, yeah, I kind of knew he was a perv. You know, I don't really know where we're coming to. And so I went forward and I looked at more stories, and I saw a young man who recently attempted to meet with a young girl. She was 18 years of age, off of the internet, social media. So they talk about these Facebook hookups now, and also Backpage and still Craigslist and all of these different social media sites, Plenty of Fish, for these hookups. And I thought it was strange that men are still doing this because we've seen all of the murders and robberies. And so I really wanted to know what is so exciting about meeting a stranger that you don't know, that you haven't physically seen, to engage in sacred energy exchange. That was really peculiar to me. And so this young girl is now going to prison because she set this man up to be robbed. And of course, since it's been going on, he didn't have anything with him. And when the gentleman who came out from behind the shadows recognized that he didn't have anything with him, they took him to his car and they shot him. And so he played dead. And with him playing dead, they walked away thinking that they had killed him. And he called 911, therefore saving his own life. And now this young 18-year-old girl who didn't receive anything that night is getting a prison sentence along with those men that she will soon identify. I'm certain of it. And so it's, you know, very peculiar to me as we have gone into 2018 that we are still having these types of issues on this planet. Everyone is having sex. People aren't talking. They aren't having proper conversations concerning it. So we're out here having sex with children. We're having sex with animals. We're having sex with, you know, people that are in nursing homes. We're having sex with people that are in comas. I started doing the research, and there's been women that have been raped in the hospital in comas. There have been, you know, children that are in mental institutions that have come up pregnant, you know, and they're not even really collecting the DNA and stuff to find out who has violated these people. And as I've said before, it's going to take some staunch laws to change, you know, for people to really get a clue what's going on. But then you have to kind of look at where your congressmen travel, the things that they get into. They're over in countries that specialize in pornography of children. As I said on a previous show, the average age in Mexico for consensual sex of a young girl is 13 years of age. That's in Mexico. A lot of your lawmakers spend a lot of time vacationing in Mexico. Okay, so I am back and I do apologize. It is storming here in Texas, and so I know we got a little bit of technical difficulties there. And so now I'm back with you live. And like I said, you can call in at 310-928-7733. So I was saying that we are not going to have any type of change in this country until, first of all, we get these geriatric old raggedy politicians out of office. That's the first thing. Stop voting for the people that your mother, your grandmother, and your daddy and then voted for, and really get out there and learn these people. If you don't keep a president past 8 years, I don't think you should keep a senator or a congressman for 20, 30, 40 years. I think it's ridiculous. You got to get fresh faces in. You got to get people that are starving. You know, these are not jobs where people are millionaires, yet all these people leave office millionaires. What's going on? You know what I'm saying? And so you got to look at where these people are vacationing. They vacation in a lot of places where there's a lot of sex trafficking. And so Mexico, the average age for consensual sex of a young girl is 13 years of age. How is that possible? At 13, I didn't know whether I wanted donuts or potato chips or a pickle. I definitely knew I didn't want to have sex. And so as I've been talking to young ladies and mothers, you know, you need to pay attention. While you're out here trying to find a man for yourself, your daughters are finding plenty on the internet. I talked with young girls this weekend, and between the ages of 12 to 14, and they shared with me that they either have already had intercourse or at least had oral sex. And I asked them, how did that make you feel? And the consensus in the room was, I didn't really feel nothing. This was a shame that young, beautiful, vibrant young ladies felt nothing in a sacred energy exchange, because our children are walking around numb and abused and mistreated and downtrodden, and we're out here on Backpage and Plenty of Fish and God knows what else, Facebook Messenger, just looking at people's pictures and dialing in for sex, and so I talked with a woman who said that, she had 5 daughters. And so this man, pursued her. And as I was talking with her, I did notice some things, not to be judgmental, but I noticed that the first thing was her hair wasn't combed. The second thing I noticed was that she was extremely overweight. The third thing I noticed was that she was kind of unkempt in her body appearance, her clothing. And so I thought to myself, why would a gentleman pursue you? I didn't ask her that. I was wanting to see if she recognized where she was. And so my first thought when she started telling me was this gentleman was pursuing her daughters. And that's exactly what happened. She brought this man into her house and he molested all 5 of her daughters. And she ended up losing custody of her children for almost 2 years. And she kept saying, I don't know how I didn't see it. And I shared with her, because you desired to be loved. And if you had loved yourself first, you'd have recognized a predator when it came. Ladies, I say that, this is a very important show to me tonight, because it's just very pertinent that we start to understand what the sacred energy exchange is about. It is not about a feel-good time, even though it can feel pleasurable. It's about activating your chakra system and enlightenment. That's what it's about. It is about growing and becoming one with another person, because we are created in oneness, and we spend so much time in separateness without even recognizing that we're trying to be separate. We're hollering race, creed, and color, not realizing that we're the human race. And so I don't really care, when people say, oh, he's with an Asian or with a white chick. I don't really care if he's with a consenting adult who's willing to become one, and they're sharing energy properly. You can do that because we're in oneness. But when we start affecting our children and infecting our children and effecting our children, I have to say, where are the mothers? If you start with self-love, you don't have to be worried about whether a brother on Backpage is going to love you. You don't have to be worried about the next hookup on Facebook. You don't have to be worrying about whether you got to do a Craigslist ad to receive love, because that isn't love. That's just sex. It's not even sex, because that stands for the sacred energy exchange. I just won't say it's smashing. It's being utilized as a trash can. You're just a dumping ground for non-medicinal seminal fluid. Because a lingam, which means a tower of light, should give you vitality. It should bring your life force on board. It should cause you to awaken, because the tower of light has given the sacred space enlightenment. But when you're just out here smashing in a glory hole in the back of a car, finding teachers a couple of weeks ago in the back of a vehicle with a child. And I looked at the comments online, and it was a female teacher, a black female teacher, and a young 14-year-old boy. And all of the men online who were stating, I wish my teacher had screwed me. That's not child abuse. I would love that to happen. This is why, as gentlemen, you don't understand that it's inappropriate to touch a child, because you rally and you cheer about a child being touched when he's a male by a female. So if your 14-year-old son was in the car with his male teacher having intercourse, you would want him in prison? But what if your son sat there and told you, but I'm gay and I'm in love? You see what I'm saying? We have such biases because we're not in a healthy space sexually. We're not in a healthy space at all. We have women sitting in marriages with no sex. I talked with a woman this weekend, and I do a lot of interviews when I go out. And I talked with a woman this week, and she said that her best friend had passed away, and she had been 15 years in the home without sex with her husband. Because under the circumstances that she told me that the woman passed away, I thought it was strange. I said, where was her husband? She said they haven't slept in the same bed or had sex in about 15 years. And the last message that her friend sent her before she wound up mysteriously dead that Saturday morning after talking Friday night was, I really need to learn how to love myself. And then she went forward into saying about the gentleman, but I don't know what's wrong with him. He really knows how to be cruel, or maybe just cruel to me. And that was the final words from her best friend of 27 years. And I sat in this room as I did these interviews, and I looked at all of these women, and they were beautiful women, but all of their lights were dim. They were all obese. They were all single. They were all formerly very attractive, but you could see the wear on them. And they were all screaming, Goddess Sierra, what do you do? Why do you look so amazing? And I shared with them, because I engage in healthy, sacred energy exchange. And I also am a raw vegan. I don't eat souls. The moment I said that, the room shut down. I said, I'm not saying that if you do it, it's okay. But one of the ways that I stay clear is I don't cloud my temple with the consciousness of another living being. So I eat a plant-based diet. And the whole room shut down, and they began to laugh, and they began to joke. And, one girl said, I eat everything from the rooter to the tutor. And, she was also about 350 pounds, and everyone was lapping and slapping 5. But I realized that food was their sex. And so they had an unhealthy energy exchange because food is an energy source. It gives you life. And so they had an unhealthy energy exchange because they were using food to release that endorphin of pleasure. And so as I went through the room and I asked about 30 women, about 26 of them didn't have a relationship or a marriage or any type of sexual relations to begin with. And then the conversation got on vibrators and they began to laugh. I take care of myself and all these things. And I told them, you're really cheating yourself. A clitoral orgasm is the lowest orgasm that you can receive. Oh, child, it does me good. And they began to slap 5. And I recognize that to cover our pain, we just try to discredit information, because we don't want to really work on ourselves. We don't want to love ourselves. We want to sit on the internet and hide behind these personas instead of coming out and having the conversations that are necessary. So many of you all text me. You call me, you text me in the middle of the show. I got text messages coming now, but you don't want to call in and have a conversation. It's the radio. Nobody can see you. There's no reason to be embarrassed. Nobody knows your voice in the whole planet. If you don't tell your friends and family, they won't know it's you. But when you have a question or you need to know something, you shouldn't get your information from Craigslist, or you should get your information from people who are trained to assist you in sexual wellness. I had a gentleman on the show about pornography, and, I am a licensed and practicing tantrika. I'm a daikini. I do not engage in low vibrational intercourse or intimacies of any sort, not even with conversation. I've learned that anything that has an energy attached to it can increase or decrease me. And so anything that looks like it's going in a space that I don't want it to go, I don't exchange energy with it. That means arguing and all those types of things. I leave that alone. I say what I have to say and I'm finished. That's it. If I don't like the way a conversation is going to go on the telephone, I excuse myself because I don't want to exchange these energies. And so I noticed that women, one of the things that we've come to do is laugh and slap 5 with each other about foolishness. Meanwhile, our daughters are out here learning how to be what they call thoughts, that hoe over there, off the internet and even YouTube. YouTube, there's a woman on there with a large dildo teaching your children how to have oral sex right on YouTube. They laughed. They shared it a million times, calling her the Hoover vacuum and cleaner, all this noise and all of this spit and all of this filth right on YouTube for your children to look up with millions of views. Wouldn't you rather sit down with your children and have a productive conversation about what is appropriate? And so, we're not doing that. We're just allowing our children to learn in the street. And the streets are taking care of our children. The streets are taking care of our children. Our children are learning how to set men up online to be shot and robbed. Our young daughters are being taken advantage of by gangbangers for acceptance. Our young daughters are submitting their bodies to multiple partners for acceptance. And so I have a guest that's going to come on. Brother Jamal, are you here?
Greetings, Sierra. How are you?
Greetings. How are you?
Doing well. A lot of points that you have made this evening. I would hope that there's a sizable majority, not just of listeners, but people that are, I guess, that tend to be online and tend to frequent social media platforms have noticed. I can't vouch for that, of course, but I would hope that they have taken notice to some of the preponderance of pornography that is acceptable on social media.
Yes.
Now, like you said at the very beginning, you saw a murder on social media, on Facebook.
Yes.
I saw a murder on a couple of them have been sent to me
Yes.
on Facebook. Facebook apparently doesn't have a problem with that, like you said.
Not of black women, and no, not at all. Not, but of white women, they quickly take it down. But of black people, no, it can be shared millions of times.
Now, I know a number of people that we could call them social activists or political activists who don't engage in any of this, but have all kinds of issues, even maintaining their platforms with
Absolutely.
social media platforms, including Facebook. But Facebook has no problem with pornography, pornographic solicitations. I mean, I get solicited daily on social media from these, women that are on porn sites. Facebook has no problem with that. No problem whatsoever. So this should be telling us all something, that we're being conditioned.
Absolutely.
As a country, as a people, as a community, we're being conditioned to understand what is acceptable behavior, acceptable content, should I say, also on social media, and what is not. So if you're a thinking person, if you're a person that can connect the dots, then obviously you're a threat. But if you're a person that engages in what some would call reprehensible behavior, if you're a person that engages in things that are of a low level nature, that's acceptable. That's okay.
Yeah.
You're not a threat.
And the sickest part is that, millions of views. It's outrageous the amount of views that you can get. There is a person on YouTube that has a pornographic website. I'm not here to condemn anyone. This is an adult. It's a transgendered. I struggle with that because this person utilizes his lingam to take care of men. And so most transgenders that I know do not utilize their genitalia, but this person does. When I would need to have Jarrell back on to classify that, but that was just a transvestite when I was growing up. It was a man who dressed up as a woman. Because most transsexuals I know, they don't utilize their genitalia. But we're in such an age now where there's so much going on that I can't get the labels right. So I won't try to talk about it. But, I stand over my children on YouTube. They like to watch gaming. However, the gaming is even sometimes filled with, inappropriate conversations and, because these are grown adults making videos for children. And this is even a way to solicitate conversation from children. Parents need to pay attention. You have a grown adult sitting on his couch playing Mario, acting like a child. He's doing that to engage children. And so they did a thing, I think it was on 2020 or something, where they went through an app like Marco Polo or whatever. They used a fake
love, sex, power, and money. These four things seem to rule the world. But what world are you creating for yourself? Where does your destiny lie? How do you grow into your maximum potential? How do you experience living instead of life? How do you heal the wounds from the past so that you can have a better future? Let's explore these options and more. This is Grown Folks Business with Goddess Sierra, and we are about to open up the forum for real-life discussions in real time every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on InnerLightRadio.com.
I'm going to tell you all, this is a really powerful show because it just keeps being hung up on. And so I just got an article now that the missing Texas teen, who's Heaven Ray Cox, she was 15 years old, has died just a few months after being reunited with her family. But this young lady reportedly ran away with an internet predator that she met on Snapchat. 15 years old, and now she is deceased. And they haven't released her cause of death, of course. But it's tragic because, as I said before, you all probably couldn't hear me, parents, you need to wake up. Your children are seeking attention of pedophiles and perverts because they can't get your attention. See, when I was going through these things in the 70s, molestation was real. Predators were real crafty. You got to call them Uncle so-and-so, and, they were real close to your family, and you trusted them, and they cultivated you. Now your children are seeking these people out. They desire relationship with anybody because there's no relationship at home. Everybody is on Plenty of Fish and Tinder and Snapchat. I'm telling you, when I did my week on the online dating that I only lasted one day, my phone was dinging, 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 dinging with all these men who just liked my picture. I wasn't interested in that. I let them quickly know, oh, this is research for my radio show. They quickly ignored me. I had to delete it. So I could imagine being a attractive woman, or just a woman with all this type of attention. I would think, oh, I got it going on right now. No, this is a farce. This isn't real. Nobody's getting to know anybody anymore. If you were getting to know people, you wouldn't lay down with them because you would understand that they were toxic. You would understand that. And so we don't understand that. We don't understand it. We just try to overstand it. We try to make excuses. We try to make excuses and say, oh, well, I need somebody to love me. I watched a woman the other day. She was sleeping with her daughter's former boyfriend. And her daughter said, you've ruined my life. And she said, so what? I need somebody to love me too. We have come to a desperate place when we don't recognize that self-love is what's necessary. If you don't love yourself, it's impossible for you to love your child. Impossible. Not without screwing them up. If you don't love yourself, it's impossible for you to love your partner. That's what all that arguing, cussing, fighting, bleaching up clothes and stuff is about. See, that's about self-hatred. Because when you love somebody, even if they don't want you anymore, you desire to see them blessed. You don't desire to tear up their belongings. You don't desire to burst their windows. You don't desire to bleach their clothes. I've made jokes about that and said I was the one that bleached clothes, but I've never done that. I'm just joking. I've seen it done, and I never understood. And I also never understood why the man, after having that done to him, would be driving that same female around a week later. But then I would always meet their mother, and I would understand. Because the majority of men marry their mothers, regardless of how immature she may be, regardless of how mature she may be, regardless of how thin she may be, how thick she may be. Most men marry their ideology of their mother. I remember when I was young, I had my first child at 17, and that's too young to have a child. And so I didn't have much to give him except the kindness and the love and the care that I had in my heart, but I didn't have much maturity to give him. And I noticed that when he started dating, he brought home young ladies that were just like I was at 18, 19, 20. He brought home that loud mouth, big mouth, know-it-all girl that had a very low self-esteem, that didn't know who she was. And I recognized quickly he was bringing home his mother. I recognized quickly that regardless of what I had done to build him, the most impressionable place that he was at was the place where he witnessed a relationship with the first woman in his life. So you gentlemen who are out here with these toxic ladies, heal your relationship with your mother. Brother Jamal, are you back with us?
Greetings, Sierra. Yes.
Yes, greetings. And so how do you feel about that? Because, I talk about toxic women a lot because I'm a woman who was once in toxicity and I've healed. And so I don't get on brothers because I'm not a man and I never step into the quicksand, where I don't know how to stand. I deal with women and our issues. But how do you feel about that, what I just said about a man's interaction with his mother being his first important relationship with the female?
Well, it is. And just like a woman's interaction with her father is.
Or lack thereof.
And we could go both ways with that.
Yeah.
Okay. But the chances are greater that the mother will be there for the children on some level.
Absolutely.
As opposed to a man in this society that may disappear. But, okay. Where I'm coming from at this point is that the undiagnosed cases of mental illness that are walking around our streets as normal is a major issue. And
well, see, because we've called mental illness preference now. It's just called preference now.
You're right. Right. Well, we can't identify the behavior as being mental illness. And so it has become normalized.
I read an article from a pedophile, and he wrote a whole article saying, I love children, and that isn't wrong. It's perfectly normal. And this was this whole article, and he was serious. And I thought to myself, like, who published this? And this is but yes, it was published in a predominant paper and all this. And I thought, we've all sat here and listened to this sickness. And then I thought about the thousands of people that would be reading that and nodding their head yes. There was a time when stuff like that never would have been published because it was highly inappropriate.
Well, again, if the society itself is out of balance,
absolutely,
then mental illness does become the norm.
The norm.
It is normal. It is seen as normal behavior. And you then try to justify the imbalances because you don't believe there's anything wrong with it. That's, in some cases, this is all that you have known. Mm-hmm. And you accommodate it. You actually breed it. You groom it. You cultivate it.
And a prime example of that is the amount of men now on social media in wigs and makeup.
Exactly.
It's a prime example of it. I mean, that's the way that they want to be famous now.
Fame, celebrity, the ego.
15 minutes, the ego.
These are all symptoms, as far as I'm concerned, of a society that is out of balance.
Yes.
So it's epidemic. It's systemic.
It's a pandemic at this point. It's out of control. It's gone past the epiport. It's a pandemic.
And I think what's slowly starting to happen is that once where American media was the dominant media in the world, and people would look at the images on the media and almost marvel. Now that you have foreign competition. You have Chinese media, which is going global. You have even the French media, which is grown in at least the volume. And you have other media outlets. People are looking at America and Americans in a whole different light. And black people in particular, where we may have once been looked upon as maybe a moral barometer of America, we're no longer looked at that way because we're lumped into the same bag with everybody else in America, stamped on our chest, you made in the USA, and what goes along with that in terms of the perception from the outside are all of the things that we're talking about right now because it's on full display.
Absolutely.
If it's on social media, if it's on YouTube, if it's in the movies, everybody in the world is watching this. And so when you step outside of these borders and people react to you a certain way and you just say, oh, how could, you don't know me. Well, they feel that they do because they've just seen a nation of people freaking out.
Yes.
You know,
Absolutely. And even when the gentleman who had done the U.S. Army with the gonzo pornography went to Africa and started, enticing young, poor African boys to have intercourse with one another and urinate in each other's mouths and started posting, two black monkeys, this, that, and the other, and how it was quickly taken to the media. I mean, they started screaming, you white devils, get out of Africa and stuff like that. But they were filming this stuff and putting it all over the media. And, these young boys who were made to have intercourse with one another. There was also a video a while ago of a man in South Africa, I believe, a white man who had two young African boys, and he was beating them, and they were begging him to stop, and then he told them to kiss one another. And he was laughing and filming, and the young boy had his eyes closed, and the other young man was crying. And I thought to myself, how could you as a human being, as an individual, and this was something that was shared all over social media a few years ago, and I watched the amount of people that laughed and made the negative comments, the racist comments, all of that. And I just, these types of things make me cry. The video of that young 4-year-old, even though I didn't press play, when I saw what it was and I immediately deleted it, I didn't know how to take it to the police. And I knew that just even having it on my phone could get me charged. And I don't even know if deleting it, because everything leaves a footprint now. You know what I'm saying? But I burst into tears because I couldn't believe that. I know it's hard to say as a sexual wellness coach that I couldn't believe it, but I couldn't believe that it was being shared. I believed that it was being done, but I couldn't believe that the average citizen thought that that was something that should be sent to people. That you didn't think to take that to the police, that you didn't think to protect this baby. You thought to send it to me, that I would want to look at it. I wouldn't want to look at anything like that. And this is the reason why healers need to be in position. But then it's kind of weird when I hear healers talking about, I use pornography as a teaching tool and all that. Something is wrong with you. You can't teach anybody anything with that except filth and perversion. There's nothing attractive about spitting on a woman, slapping a woman, making a woman have 4 and 5 men in her at one time, having ejaculate all over her face. There's nothing sacred about that act. And there's nothing you could teach a woman except self-hatred with that. And I can say that because I'm a woman. And so, I did an interview on the way back from Dallas today, and I asked the gentleman, what is it about you all and sex? You can have it with the woman that's right next to you. And he said, man, it's just the joy you get being able to smash somebody you don't know. That was his actual response. And I said, do you know what is between a woman's legs? And he said, yeah, the derogatory word P, or her vagina. And I said, have you ever heard it called a yoni? And he said, what? And I said, yoni, it's a Sanskrit word for sacred space. And he said, nah, I don't know nothing about that. You know what I'm saying? And I said, and what you possess is called the lingam of Tower of Light. He said, nah, I give it his D or whatever, and he went on. But he told me that it was the thrill of being able to smash someone he didn't know. And I couldn't see where there was a thrill in that. I could see where there was a cootie factor for me and a grossness, because even in the 90s, I'm going to tell you, we got down, but we didn't get down with strangers. I mean, maybe some of us did, but I knew you. I spent time with you. I had relationship with you before I had relations with you. I don't even know how a yoni gets prepared for a lingam it doesn't know. I could not secrete for a stranger. My body doesn't work like that. I couldn't be stimulated off of that. And so what he was telling me, brother, was that it was just the sheer thrill of it. So that's addictive properties, and that's what you said. That's mental illness.
Right. That's, again,
it's mental illness.
This is the underlying issue in Western culture, in particular now in America, is mental illness. As well as what is purported to be treatments, which includes opioids, the opioid, now you may hear the federal government talking about an opioid epidemic, but what are people being prescribed opioids for? And it does include a form of mental illness. You're basically trying to numb the person out.
Absolutely.
And opioids are derived from opium. And that's pretty much, LSD is derived from opium, heroin.
Yeah, lots of things. And we have a pandemic right now that folks are falling out, especially in West Virginia, all over the place, because everyone is walking around numb. I looked at some heroin addicts and I thought to myself, my God, how could anyone want to feel that way? And then I recognized with talking to those 12 to 14-year-old girls this weekend that our children feel that way without the heroin. They feel that way in their own bodies. We need to wake up, people. Listen, the time is out for all this. We need to pray. Listen, I'm sick of that. You know what I'm saying? You're not doing nothing with that because you're still getting up with your wickedness. You need to get up and do something. You need to change your mind, change your heart so that you can change the pace at which you're walking. Get these people out of office. Nobody should be up in office for 25 and 30 years not doing any changes. You're voting for people that your mother and your grandmother voted for. You don't even know these people. I remember when congressmen and aldermen and all these people used to walk the streets. Now you can't get these fat cats out of their office because they caught up in all of the sexual perversion as well. They running around with HIV and stuff as well and hiding it. How do you know that? Because the booger who raised the prices, they hurried up and put him in jail. You don't raise the prices on our medicine. They hurried up and put him in jail. And so y'all got to get a consciousness. You need to understand and get a consciousness as to what's going on. Tonight's show was really serious. We'll see you back next week. I try to keep things light and a little bit of laughter, but what I've endured this week hasn't been funny at all. This is Grown Folks Business on InnerLightRadio.com. I'm Goddess Sierra. I love you and I like you, and I'll see you again next week.
I know you're used to letdowns and heartbreaks, lost in silhouettes of your heartaches. I can show you better, babe. I can show you better, babe. I know you're used to letdowns and heartbreaks, lost in silhouettes of your heartaches. I can show you